Several people have sent in different quotes. I found the original article here. Did you see anything recently about Triple H? Comments he made about NXT in an article on theathletic.com?
Well, I did see that he basically was trying to say that, well, we planned to make those changes all along. I just wasn't around for them, but we really got to get the guy's camera ready for the main roster instead of what we were doing for the past 7 years or whatever is the tone of the conversation.
Well, I have a little bit here. I'll read it to you, get your thoughts. The line here, the subject in this part of the story, the move to NXT 2.0. NXT's brand change and TV move to Tuesday nights were seen by many as an admission of defeat after going head-to-head with AEW Dynamite. And it coincided with this youth movement. It also largely came while Levesque was out of the picture following his health scare. But he defended the move and said the shift was always part of the plan. Quote, there was this point where it was on the network, it had this cult following, and needed to get on television. And we needed to get on television. How do we do that? We need more experience, need to professionalize this a little bit to make a product to where the fans want to see that. We got them to that place. The pandemic messed it up a little bit because it was right when we went on TV and we had to shift our focus, doing it in front of no people. It completely altered what we were doing. We couldn't recruit or train talent for almost 2 years, but the show stayed. Then
wait a minute, they might not have been able to recruit a lot, but they could train talent because the talent was there already. And did they stop training, actually training?
I'm not sure what closed down in Florida, which was a very friendly place to keeping things open during the pandemic at the height of it. I don't know what they did or didn't do. I'd have to go back and check.
All right.
But let me return to this. But then we said, okay, let's reboot it and go back to what we originally were. Some of these people won't be ready for television, but we're going to put them on television. And we believe the audience is invested enough
that chicken won't be cooked all the way, but we're going to risk the ptomaine.
We believe that the audience is invested enough that the numbers might come down, but a core group of them will stay. And now you're creating fresh stars all the time. That's where we are now. The numbers have stabilized. There's more, but I'll stop there for any initial thoughts.
Well, Ring of Honor was getting the alternative wrestling fan that wanted to see athletic sports-based presentation. And so the indie wrestling fans in general, which is a segment of the wrestling fan population that doesn't like the big companies, that likes the indie stuff, okay, so they made their own Ring of Honor, NXT. They made their own indie. And it had the better quality of wrestling in NXT that fan base wanted to see rather than these interminable entrances and the complete showbiz gaga, even though they showbizzed a lot of NXT up. So he had the product that was most athletically demanding in the ring, but also appealed to the traditional wrestling audience. That's why the age of the NXT audience was mostly older, because they weren't slapping you in the face with this is phony horse shit. So it was the only thing that was palatable for people that had been fans of professional wrestling. Where they went wrong was they signed every indie darling and kept a lot of them there so long that were so minute in size or so colorless in personality that when Vince finally, as we've said, anytime that Vince finally decides to pay attention to something he hadn't been paying attention to, you're in trouble in that company. The first time that Vince really needed to pay close attention was, well, why aren't the ratings better than AEW's? Even though it's the third program with the greenest talent, and they were competitive within a couple 100,000, Vince doesn't like that. Vince goes down and takes a look. I'm sure he saw Johnny Gargano and said, what the fuck are all of you doing? And then he saw...
Do you think that's what he said when he saw Adam Page, and that's why people had to try to convince him to keep him on as a manager?
Adam Cole.
Adam Cole, excuse me.
Probably. There are some of the indie darlings that also have a look and personality, and MJF became an indie darling before he joined AEW. And everybody was talking about him. There was something there in that case. But unfortunately, a lot of the indie darlings are the small guys that do nonstop moves with no facials, which is a Vince McMahon picadillo. If you got a blank face, you're going to get a blank fucking check, as in not signed with no money on it from Vince McMahon. If you've got an expressive face, body language, and a personality, then that's what he's looking for, and he wants to see the look. You don't have to be 7 feet tall, but you got to be bigger than some of those guys were. So instead, and with the way Vince is, instead of going in there and reasonably saying, okay, you've gone a little too far. I like that guy, and that guy. Some of these guys are too small, and do you see any money in this fucking mud fence over here? He's bland. Instead of doing that, he just said, fuck it. Redo all this shit. We're going to make some gimmicks, some characters. And then you get the fucking 90s, you know, the sanitized Tony Soprano without the violence and murder and all of the ridiculous gimmicks that Vince comes up with relating to the guy's personal interests or out of the ring occupation, or we've never had a garbage man.
But, you know, part of the problem, too, is you're saying gimmicks. That's one thing. And the Tony D'Angelo thing, to use him as an example, just seems like it's really outdated. Seems ridiculous. Doesn't fit in with modern wrestling.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, the people that use names that are somewhat real, you know, there's an edict right now. He doesn't want anyone using anything that's remotely close to their real name, so they can't leave WWE one day and use it. Here are some recent names they've trademarked. Roxanne Perez, Alba Fire, Cruz Del Toro.
Wait, what?
These are names they've trademarked for people in NXT.
Cruz Del Toro?
So they can give them new names that they can own. And finally, remember Casey Catanzaro?
Yes.
Small girl, very small, but someone who's actually been on TV. She was a Ninja Warrior champion.
And well, then she's been on their TV for months and months and months.
And her new name? Katana Chance. But that's my point. It's a gimmick. It's a stupid, outdated gimmick like Tony D'Angelo, or it's a ridiculously made-up name they're going to put on you while they take you and make you as generic as possible.
I want to see the tag team of Howie Felter Snatch and fucking, you know, Bend Over.
I don't know if you're going to be seeing that in NXT, but let's go back to Triple H's quotes here. People like Braun Breaker. He's been training for a year. Half the women, they've been here a year maybe. There's a lot that's so fresh and so new. People used to say the constant churn of NXT was a negative. The churn is what's great about it. The people here now, hopefully a year and a half from now, none of them are even in NXT anymore. And the ones that make it will be on to Raw and SmackDown.
And that's going to be the problem, too. If you put somebody on national TV after they've been in wrestling school for a year and a half, Jesus Christ.
That's the magic. It truly is the developmental league, the college football, AAA baseball. Yeah, they're not all quite ready to be in the major league role yet, but you're discovering them before they become household names. So I'll stop there, and there's one more section here.
Well, again, I mean, you know, what's he going to say? My father-in-law got pissed and decided to fucking tear everything up and start from scratch. He's trying to put a positive spin on it, but again, you can't take a guy from scratch, train him for a year and a half, and expect him to be ready to be on national television, maybe to do jobs. They rushed him in OVW. They want to rush him now because Vince has no patience. And, you know, basically he's trying to put a good face on what they're doing that people are complaining about. And I don't blame him, but it ain't going to really particularly work. And they asked us one time at a WCW booking committee meeting, Jim Herd, Jim Ross, Jim Barnett, Jody Hamilton, myself, Kevin Sullivan, Ric Flair. Who am I leaving out?
Barnett?
Maybe Terry. I said Barnett. Maybe Terry Funk was there at that point. And Barnett, on behalf of Jim Herd, because he knows what Herd wants to talk about, so he's going to jump in there and make sure we talk about that. Well, boys, this was February, right? February 1990. And Sting has just got hurt, and we're switching Luger, and I think that's when one of the skyscrapers was about to be hurt, and we were going to bring in Mark Callis, Undertaker, to fill his spot, and somebody else had an issue and was home. Basically, the only program that was running was the Midnight Express against Pillman and Zink, because we didn't even need Zink to be there. Nobody noticed him anyway. And Barnett says, well, what are we going to do to draw money next month? And they went around the table, and somebody gave one idea, and somebody gave the other idea, and somebody gave, and went to me and said, what are we going to do to draw money next month? I said, we're not. What? We're not. It doesn't matter what we do right now. We're not going to draw any money next month, and we're not going to draw any money the next month, and we're not going to draw any money the month after. But if we start right now with a coherent plan, using the guys that we can depend on to show up and not milk these new guaranteed contracts for fictitious injuries, then we can probably draw some money in 4 months. And Barnett said, well, that's easy for you to say. It's not your money. That's what's even easier for me to say, because it's the fucking truth.
It was never Barnett's money either.
Well, exactly.
Where's Johnny
Very
Doyle?
Ironic comment coming from him. Where's Lonnie? And guess what happened? We didn't draw any money the fucking month after, or the month after, or the month after that. And because they didn't start then with a coherent plan, they didn't draw any money on the 4th month either.
Well, to finish off this section about Triple H talking about NXT, we were talking about this shift anyway. That's where we were headed. It happened at a period of time where I had to leave for a bit. Luckily, Sean had been doing it with me all that time, so it was a seamless thing. I stepped out, did what I needed to do, but the team has killed it. They've really created a show where you can really say, that's the next generation of stars. I just want to say here,
of what?
My 2 cents only thing where he said, the team has killed it. Didn't they fire his entire team? Sean's the only one still there.
That's what I was going to say. He said, well, thankfully, Sean was there and ready to step in and take over to help everybody carry their bags out to the fucking cab. The team killed it, all right. Actually, the father-in-law killed it. The team executed his wishes, but they've killed it. Yeah, they're not... How are they getting anybody ready for the main roster when they're putting people on TV that are too green to be on television, and they're giving them gimmicks and names that they're obviously going to change as soon as they go to the main roster? So what are they getting them ready for? They're giving them practice. You could do that at the fucking church gym at St. Therese and in front of 75 people. And maybe when one or more of these people get somewhat good at what they're doing, then they might go on TV and get over because people haven't seen them when they couldn't remember whether to fucking turn right or turn left. But that's just me.
Well, maybe, Jim, you're a wrestler. Maybe you're someone who's been wrestling internationally for years to some acclaim. Perhaps you call yourself, I don't know, Walter. And then all of a sudden you have to change your name to Gunther, become a Nazi or whatever they tried to make him, and then you get to walk that back.
Or a lion tamer.
And then the entire time you're on the main roster, people are still chanting Walter. It must piss you off. You must really hate this booking malpractice. What if there's someone you could talk to about suing?
Intellectual property. That's what you're trying to protect, your property, which is intellectual. And intellectuals protect their property by calling on the services of one man that can defend them against the raging forces of the outside world.
call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Still to the rest.
Yes, folks, call him. 888-692-8084. Call it. He gets phone calls all the time. Early morning, late at night. He's up all the time. If he ain't getting calls, he's making calls about the calls that he's gotten. And what's more, he's always writing those writs. And I'll tell you what, I've read the writs he's written, and they're really well-written writs. But you don't write anyone off. You can save the day. You can save your situation. It doesn't have to be written off. All you got to do is call Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084 for any of your legal needs, or just to call him up early in the morning and jack him out of bed. He'll answer that phone call in a fine humor. Folks, again, we've talked about the opioid-addicted babies, the lawsuits that are continuing to be pressed. It's already in the process on those things that the pharmaceutical company tried to bankrupt themselves to get out of. Well, they're chasing them down on that, whether it's your polluted groundwater, whether it's something in some way that you have been harmed or damaged. Stephen P. New and his team at newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084, did I say, can take care of you regardless of what the legal onslaught might be. You need your guide, your Sherpa, to navigate you through those terrible, treacherous legal pitfalls and into the summit of getting paid. And as we've mentioned many times before also, if Stephen P. New cannot get your ass paid, your ass does not accept cash. newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. He's standing by now. 24 hours.
No, he's not.
He's
not standing by. No, he's not.
It's all he does is answer phone calls. Some of them are happy calls, some of them are angry calls, but he's always on a call.
He's a very busy man, and someone will be there to help you out. Stephen P. New.
He does have minions.
As any busy man does, yes, of course.